So I'm Buster Locke. I'm here representing BHE, Berkshire Hathaway Energy. Pat talked me into coming and told me just tell my story, and I kind of laughed because I don't think he understood how complicated my story has gotten since last time we talked. So I'm kind of going to go through things here. My current role is a BHE IT applications manager. So I'm on the IT side of the business, but I grew up in the distribution design side. I spent 18 years at NV Energy doing distribution design, from design to coordination to project management to process improvements, training, all that stuff, right? So I get all you guys' pain. That's what I'm saying. And so fun thing on this is, I was there for 18 years. In 2001, I switched over to BHE and took over, went from just my little bubble of NV Energy to the bigger Berkshire Hathaway Corporation. So this is kind of our big BHE corporation here. We have a lot of affiliates in the US, primarily PacifiCorp, MidAmerican, and NV Energy will be what I deal with and talk about. And those are our electrical distribution and our gas distribution companies. We also have our pipelines companies, Northern Natural Gas, Kern River, and the very inventive name of GT&S, gas transmission for BHE on the East Coast. I've worked with them a lot, but we'll talk a little bit about that later. So I can do the US. We also have AltoLink up in Canada and our affiliates out in Great Britain and a little bit in Australia. So it's kind of a fun mix of things. We have a lot of different things going on. It's a little bit crazy. So we have stuff in all 50 states. It's a little fun. So a lot of employees, a lot of things going on. So I'll start with my home state, NV Energy. Pat reminded me yesterday that we're not his oldest customer, but his longest customer that's here. NV Energy has always been an Autodesk product user since like the late 90s. So, almost 3 decades going on. We went to Autodesk's Topo base, which is now basically Map 3D back then. Right before we released AUD, the original AUD, which was in like 1999. And that was actually back when it was a Gentry product. It was great. It was all list-based. There was no user, kindness, right? I can't think of the words. But, if you didn't know Lisp programming, there was no way you were going to go ahead and change any of the rules, right? There was no rule engine. It was call IT, submit a ticket, wait 6 months, right? Luckily, we had a really good programmer named Vito Lee, who I think a few of you guys knew. He worked on the product for a long time. Unfortunately, he left us in 2018, right before we released our updated product. And we held on to the Gentry stuff for way too long, like 18 years. So Pat's been around. We actually had a really fun experience because in 2016 when we decided, we should probably upgrade this, we started talking to Autodesk and all of a sudden it got a little quiet. And the next thing we knew, SBS was here and we were talking to them. But the good thing, it was all the same people, right? So it wasn't like huge shift, it was just a contracting problem. So they were great to work with. They came on site, did all the things. I think we were one of their first customers out the gate. It was great. So had good experiences on that. We talk about a lot of deployment and acceptance from the business and all that stuff. Nevada is one company, but we have the southern region, which is the Las Vegas area where I'm from, and we have our northern region, which is like Reno across the top of the state. It's one company. They hate each other. So Vegas has been AUD for a long time, like since 1999. Their adoption rate was great. A lot of that was under management, right? Because their management embraced the tool. They made their people use it. It was good. Northern Nevada was always resistant. In 2010, though, we brought in Maximo to replace all of our homegrown work management systems. And when they got Maximo, they realized, we have to do all this traveler design stuff, without AUD. So they finally relented, and we released a version of AUD to them in 2014. Adoption was not great because, again, their management didn't push it. They were kind of like, we'll just get the job done. So maybe we had a 20% adoption rate to begin with, right? It wasn't a good rollout. And they were still pretty resistant up to the last few days, or last few months. So as part of Berkshire Hathaway's initiative to bring all their companies together, one of the things that they realized is because they bought PacifiCorp in about 2010, they bought NV Energy in 2014, but they really didn't do anything with the companies. They kind of let them be on their own and run their own business. In 2020, they kind of realized that, well, this is working, but like none of the reporting makes any sense. Like every affiliate is reporting completely different things and all this stuff. So they launched this big business transformation initiative to get us all on the same products. So they chose Maximo as a workplace, or work management system and asset management system. They chose Oracle, like Fusion and OFS and stuff to do a lot of our backend systems. So they started this big project. They started at MEC. They rolled it out there. So NV was the next phase of that project. We rolled it out, good timing, rolled it out on July 1st, because why wouldn't you do that on a holiday weekend? But that was great on our AUD side because AUD was easy to upgrade, right? We did a small project. We repointed it to the new Maximo. There was a lot more stuff we had to add in attribute-wise because our old Maximo was very customized, especially in the contract stage. So it was easy to do a contract in Maximo. The new Maximo is pretty much off the shelf with some localization in it. So we ended up pulling a lot of attributes that we used to do in Maximo into AUD. Well, that kind of re-engaged the North because all of a sudden they had a lot more work to do if they were going to do tabular design. Also, we did this weird thing where like we create two designs in Maximo. One is like your actual cost and the one is your customer cost. So now they had to do two tabular designs on top of it. So they really got engaged in AUD. It also helped that we had a management change in our northern territories. So their new management is like, hey, Southern Nevada's doing this. They have half the people. They produce twice the amount of jobs. Why are we not getting that efficiency, right? So they really pushed that out the door. And they're on top of it, and it's great. So we've had a big change. So now we're getting like all those hypercare tickets of like, hey, we want to change all these things that we should have got like 4 years ago, right? So good and bad. Luckily, I have a good team who came over. Some part of them are from the business and stuff, so they're doing a great job. Thomas Fowler, you'll probably see him post on some of the forums and stuff sometimes. He was one of our senior designers. When I took this job, I brought him over because honestly, he'd been doing a lot of the configuration on weekends. So it was kind of like, well, come work for me and just I'll pay you to do it, right? So that's kind of NV Energy in a nutshell, right? There's a lot going on there. So that's kind of my first 2 deployments with AUD. And we're still a Map 3D topo shop on an old system that we have to go to Esri. So it's one of the things that has on my list to do. Second up, I have PacifiCorp. PacifiCorp is kind of our northwest, midwest, or whatever you want to call it, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, that area. They just went live with their AUD in the end of 2024. They had an AutoCAD system before that, and then GIS got involved, which is, I know we've had some issues with that, right? But the GIS manager got involved. They built this estimator sketch tool on top of ArcGIS, which for what they built and how much time they took to build it, it was good. It was awesome. As a designer, it sucked. It was slow. I would never want to actually use it to do any work, right? So they suffered through that for a few years. As part of the IT, even before I took this job, I was really pushing AUD for all the affiliates though, right? Because we'd done it a couple times. We knew it was really the right way to go. So we got PAC on board. They were actually supposed to be part of our Wave 1 initiative for the business transformation back in 2023, but they ended up breaking PAC and MEC apart because they just realized it was too much. We couldn't handle it. But we didn't stop the AUD project that had been going along with that. We just broke it into phases. So what we released in last October was basically the design part of it, right? It doesn't have any integrations in the work management or CUs or CUEs or anything like that. It's just a design tool, which they love. It's great. It's been awesome. They always wanted off their tool, so that helped, right? But also their management was behind it again, right? So we released it in October. They did all their training. They were fully implemented by January. And by mid-February, they stopped doing work in their old EST tool. So it literally took 5 months, and we were 100% adopted, which was great. So that was a fun experience with them. Phase 2, we're kind of still waiting for. PAC has had some, if you've been watching the news about any of the fire stuff in Oregon, California, PAC has had some difficulties the last few years. So we keep pushing out the business transformation for them. I just learned earlier this week we did it again, so they're not going to kick off until 2027. When they do, though, they're going to have Maximo and everything else, so we'll do the integrations into Maximo and do CU estimating and all that stuff as our phase 2. So, which they'll love. Right now, they're still doing tabular design in their old mainframe system, and they still want to get rid of it. So, and again, and they're also on an older version of Esri. It's like, I think we're on 10.9. I just put X because I can't remember off the top of my head. Oops. So that's, again, I have to do the GIS project on that side. Move over to the middle of the country, I have MidAmerican. Right now they're a completely Hexagon GTech shop. They do Hexagon design, or GTech Designer, GTech for their GIS, all that stuff, NetViewer, all that good things. We're kind of in the same scenario that I talked to a few people about earlier this week, where we have waited so long to upgrade that we have to do a little upgrade in order to make the product last long enough to actually even get rid of it, right? So that's kind of what we're working on right now. Our goal is to, though, in the start of 2027, to start the migration to AUD and UN. So again, just trying to get everybody aligned across all of our affiliates. It's been a monumental task. And I kind of threw some specs on here. You guys can read through them. I don't want to tell you all. And then, so yeah, so one of the other things I'm just getting into is our renewables department. So we have this BHE Renewables, who's primarily solar and wind related. MidAmerica especially has invested a ton into wind turbines and things. Unfortunately, a lot of that was done through like contracts and maintenance contracts for like 10-year periods. Well, a lot of that stuff's coming due. So they're looking into like, what GIS do we need? How are we going to design this stuff and maintain it in the future? So it's kind of a new conversation we're having with them. So I'm happy to see here that AUD is getting a little into the renewables. We'll have to have more conversations on that in the future. And then, like I said, I have my pipelines group. I was lucky enough that when I first took this job, I got all the stuff in the US. We finally realized that was way too much work, especially on the pipeline side, because those who deal with pipelines transmission realize really fast, right? All the FERC reporting, all the special characteristics, everything you have to deal with them is very time-consuming and a lot, right? And they're very picky about everything. So really, we decided they needed their own support group. So my team still does a lot of their GIS servers and stuff and their infrastructure, but their actual management of the product is kind of off on its own now. And they're working through a UN upgrade on that side too. They have a mix of like Esri at like Kern and Northern Natural Gas. GTNS actually has small worlds, so that's what they're working on first, is their small worlds, because we know that's going away. So that's kind of my fun over there. And then we have some transmission. I don't deal too much with them. So it's pretty stable business. We don't talk a lot with our electric transmission people, but they do tie to our AltaLink customers up in Canada. AltaLink is pretty much a microstation Esri shop. So, and then our Northern Power Grid friends, we talk with them every once in a while. They have some weird rules though, so talking back and forth with them is kind of difficult on what they can tell us about what's happening in their system. But we do communicate on like different projects and what we're doing. A big thing we're working on them is one of our business transformation things is actually replacing all of our OMS software. So like trying to work with them and figure out what everybody's doing around the world, right? So business transformation, I threw this slide up off of our business transformation deck. It's just, this is NVE only. This is our Wave 3 that we released in July. This is a ridiculous project. I would never suggest anybody doing it. To rip out all of your work management and, HR systems and procurement systems all at one time across affiliates, oof. Yeah, it's a lot. It's taken a lot of work, but we did it. It's live. We just exited hypercare last week. We still have a ton of bugs. I think last report I heard was like 1,300 bugs on the Maximo side. But they're all medium and lows, so who cares, right? Small things. But yeah, so it was a big thing. It was a big project. And this is, like I said, Wave 3. We did MidAmerica back in 23. We did the pipelines as kind of a 2.5 and 24, and then NV Energy. And then PacifiCorp, whenever they get their stuff together, we'll do them too. So I kind of just threw some notes in here, and I was kind of throwing a timeline together, and I limited it to just the stuff that matters to AUD people, right? So I've been lucky enough to do this a few times now. I've done 3 implementations of AUD, right? They've all gone differently, right? So I commiserate with a lot of the stuff you guys were saying in the earlier presentations. So I kind of threw my top 5 things up here that I do on all my projects. My number 1 anymore is leadership, right? Because I don't care how many people you have from the business and stuff, if you don't have that leadership buy-in, if you don't have them going, okay, we're gonna do this, this is our product, all the designs are gonna happen in this, you're gonna have a hard time getting adoption, right? So you really need that. That's like my number 1 on every project, not just AUD anymore. My number 2 is dedicated SMEs, but that kind of comes with your management buy-in, right? Because if you're talking to your management and they're like, oh, I can give you a gym for like 2 hours a week on this project, right? you're never going to get it done. It's going to take forever, and you're never going to get the adoption, right? So you really need to like find those 2 or 3 really good people and just say, I need these guys for like the next 18 months, right? And to get this project done. And then expanding on that is testers, right? Again, we always have that problem of getting testing. So get like those 5 to 10 testers that are just great. They know what they're doing. They're business people. Get them dedicated to the project so they're not doing their day job and doing this, right? Like that'll save you at the end, right? And a lot of this is selling it to management and selling management on the idea that like what you put into it now is going to dictate how your job goes in the next 2 years. We can either dedicate these people to it for the next couple of years, get a really good product, and you have a 6-month, timeline to get back up to speed. If we don't do this, you're looking at 2 years, right? Just be realistic about them. Like don't oversell, don't understand it. Just tell them, this is what you're looking at. So training is a fun thing. I've seen this done multiple different ways. My suggestion is to do it at time of rollout. I heard a few people talking about that, have the product, bring the people in, install it on their machines, train them to use it, send them off. That's what they're doing the next day, right? They're getting rid of the old stuff, they're doing the new stuff. I've seen people train it 2 months ahead of time on the release. That never goes well, right? Like they've all forgot it by then. So, but sometimes your training departments get involved and things go a little skewy, so you kind of have to control some of that. And then my 5th one is having subject matter experts on the ground. Again, those people on the ground in the office are key at Go Live, right? Because they're just going to make everything go smoother. They're there to answer the questions from the users and just, quash the frustration as much as possible, right? If you don't have that, you have some poor person out, in the middle of nowhere who's trying to work through the system and just can't figure it out, they're going to abandon it, right? And that's what we see all the time. So SMEs are always a great thing. I had a bonus one, but I can't remember off the top of my head probably. Or anything, because unfortunately, since I'm into IT, I'm not really on that side of the world of design and stuff anymore. Talking to Pat, I did realize that the last time we came to the PUG was in 2018, so it's been a while. And that was right after we did our Southern Nevada release, and we demoed and stuff out of that. But we never came back after COVID, and we did our Northern Nevada release. So there's a few things in there that I'd love them to come down next year and present to you guys. We did some cool stuff with like light lining for street lights and stuff like that. And then PacifiCorp, I tried really hard to get them to come down this year because they did some really cool stuff with, not necessarily on the AD side specifically, but how they actually enter their project. So, because they have 6 states, they have all this different territory, right? So one of their user complaints was, I opened up this and I have no idea where I am. I'm getting stuck in the middle of, some state that I don't know what I'm working in. So they worked a lot to build it so that when they get they put their project information in, and it pulls up their district that they're working in, it pulls in their, Esri maps, it gives them everything they need right up front, which is a really cool functionality for them, so they're not hunting around all these states trying to figure out where they live. So, like I said, I'm going to work on them a bunch next year and try to get them to come down with me. So, but that's kind of the overview. Like I said, I have a lot going on. I have a lot of the same issues you guys have. I appreciate all the conversations we've had and all your presentations you did, because it's nice to know that we all doing the same thing. We just have, a lot to do in a short amount of time, right? So are there any questions or? No? All right.
I think see on your lessons learned, you had a group you were training before training, because you say rollout, you have a group of people that you were training, they use the tool prior to rollout.
Yeah, so the question was the training of the SMEs, right? So we did kind of a 2-stage training. So like our SME training was really tied into our UAT testing, right? So we brought in all the SMEs and basically did a first go around of the training to train the SMEs on how to do the UAT training, and then they just kind of roll into becoming your SMEs, right? Yeah, so that works pretty good.
One of the things that we hear a lot about and that we're as implementers and integrators at BC are really working with our customers on organizational change management for these big transformation programs. So is that part, do you have like organizational change management as part of that?
Yeah, so she was asking about change management for these bigger projects. We do. We have a whole subset of IT where they've pulled IT people, they've pulled business people running this project. So it's a huge group of PMs and business people running this across all the affiliates. So they're the ones that are sitting with the business people every day trying to figure out what's your workflow, how are we doing this. Some of it has gone better than others. In my opinion, they should have kind of gone through a lot of the workflow part of it before they started building the product, but we're where we're at. So some of it's a little bit like, because we don't want to customize the product, right? The whole idea is to get more off the shelf, right? So a lot of it's configuration for local, but we're not customizing new workflows in or anything like that. If you need to do that, we'll find another product or do that. So that's one of the biggest complaints we've had, because especially at NV Energy, our Maximo, we spent a ton of time converting it, so it was a one-stop shop. The designer coordinator went in there, they never left, they did all their contracting, all their estimating, everything in Maximo. Today's system, Maximo does the workflows, it does the initial CU gathering, and then they go over to like CPQ to do like contracting, and there's another product they go over to like do customer communication. So there's like, Maximo turned into about 6 different things, right? To do everything that we had in Maximo. Those are out-of-the-box things. We also have things like our Jolt product, which we did rebuild in-house, which is our joint licensee portal for like talking to our, telecom company customers and things like that. So yeah, but no, it's a massive undertaking on both sides of the business and IT. So yeah. So, cool. Anything else? All right, and feel free to reach out to me. I've done tons of demos on our products to different companies. I know that I've talked to a few of you on those demo meetings, so if you have questions or whatever, we're always here. So, all right, I'll let